Okay, everybody. We're just going to get started in a moment, but I would like to do a quick sound check. If you're hearing my voice in the chat box on the side, can you just let me know that you can hear me? Jonathan says, yes, I can hear you. Susan, yes, audio is good. Yes, sounds good. Okay. Great. Okay, great. One other question. I'm going to move the slides. If you could let me know, this is just my video sound check. Can you let me know if those slides moving, guys? Yes, they are moving. Okay, great. I see them. Slides are moving. Great. Okay. Okay, let's get started. Dan, why don't you start us off? You'll have to unmute, obviously, and why don't we get started?
Great. Hi, everyone. Thank you all for your time today. My name is Dan Pastretto. I run 2 landscape business groups on LinkedIn. I'm sure that's how most of you have heard of us. And I'm a landscape business consultant and an eMyth coach and CEO of SOD Business Development. eMyth is an organization that was started by Michael Gerber, the author of the eMyth Revisited and the person who coined the phrase, working on your business instead of in it. The eMyth Revisited is a great book. Reading it is like getting a small business MBA, or maybe more precisely, a real-world MBA. I'm here today with Michael Mills. He was an eMyth coach for about 17 years and has taken what he's learned there and created an amazing process for developing systems. Today we're going to talk about systemizing your landscape business. Thank you, Michael, for being here.
Okay, thank you, Dan. I want to start off with a quick question. Do any of you have key people in your organization that if they left, it would be a setback? I mean, picture that person and imagine they gave their notice today, tomorrow they're gone. What would that be like? What would that feel like? And I would love to see any responses that you have in the chat box. So, up the creek without a paddle, wouldn't be good. What else? Okay, great. Now, what if you had processes in place? What if you had a hiring system? What if you had a training system? What if you had a management system? And it was fairly painless to hire a new crew leader, for example. I mean, now, how would that feel? I mean, imagine what that would be like. So, what would that be like? So great. Lisa says much better. Mark, a breath of fresh air. Well, let me see. You know, it's you just described me and said that's great. So excellent. This is basically what it means to have a systemized business. If you can have everything carefully thought out and documented, implemented, innovated, you can get a business that's so much easier to manage. It's easier to grow or to scale. I'm going to use that word occasionally, the word scale, which basically just means to grow. It's just so much easier, but I'm guessing that most of you know this. The challenge is how do you do that? How do you systemize your business so things can be trained and delegated consistently so that you can scale or grow your business without consuming you? Both Dan and I talk to so many business owners who are sort of consumed by their business, and the thought of growing the business is more of a nightmare than a dream because they think, you know, it will just make my life hell. And it doesn't need to be that way. It really doesn't need to be that way. So that's what we're going to be talking about today. Dan introduced me. I just want to say again, my name's Michael Mills, and as Dan said, I was a master certified eMyth consultant for 17 years. I'm one of the founders of a company called Business Design Corporation. We have helped systemize many hundreds of businesses. But what we found was that while we were delivering very good business theory, we delivered Michael Gerber's eMyth Mastery program. It's very good business theory. Very few of our mastery clients were actually getting their processes and job descriptions documented. Now that, in our minds, was the very point of the program. Gerber's books have sold millions of copies around the world, but almost everyone we speak to has been unable to systemize their business. In fact, I'd like to just do a little poll here. Let me open up this poll. I'm interested to know, are you familiar with Michael Gerber's book, The E-Myth Revisited? So we should be seeing, so you should be seeing, just go ahead and vote. Let me know, yes, I've read it, or I've listened to, I've heard about him, maybe sort of, I've heard about this guy named Michael Gerber, but maybe I've never heard and much more. Okay, so about 75% of you have voted. 83% have voted. So Dan, what we're seeing here, just so you know, about 20% have read Michael's book, 50% sort of know about him, and 30% are not familiar. So this is interesting. I did a presentation for a group of State Farm insurance companies, and I asked on stage, there are about 300 companies in the room. It was a national convention for State Farm Insurance, and I was one of the keynote speakers, and I asked them in the room, how many of you have heard of Michael Gerber? Every one of them put their hand up. It was a bit of a setup because I knew they had all been involved with Michael Gerber. The eMyth organization had been, they had a corporate situation with State Farm. So it was a bit of a setup. I knew they were all going to put their hands up. So everybody puts their hand up in the room. And then I said, keep your hand up if you've been able to systemize your business. And every single hand came down except one. One hand stayed up, and I actually spoke with this guy afterwards, and I asked him, congratulations, how did you do it? And he said, well, I had to do it. I became a consultant to State Farm insurance companies. So how many of you, here's my next poll, how many of you actually know you need systems? If you wanted to grow your, and go ahead and please let me know in the box. I know I need systems. Maybe some of you are a little unsure. You've heard of people talk about systemization, but you don't really know why you need them. Why should I need systems? Or maybe some of you just say, no, I don't need them. Okay, Dan, here we go again. 91% say, yes, I need them. Okay, let's close this poll. I'm setting you guys all up for another one. What is the next one? What is your experience with so 90% of you, 91% have told me that you know you need to systemize your business. Now be honest, I can't tell who you are, so be totally honest. I'm only seeing percentages. So don't tell me it's great you've been able to systemize your entire business if you haven't been able to. But what I'm really asking for here is that you actually have all of your processes written up, they're current, they're implemented, and you're really flowing. You're poised for growth. You could double your business next week or this year, and it really wouldn't impact your life because you've got everything. You've got all the processes documented. It's really easy to train people, to delegate work. So we've only got about 60% who have voted, but Dan, just so that you know, 88% have said that they've tried, but they've been unable to. So that's pretty much classic, right? That's what we see. Almost everybody we talk to knows they need processes, but they've been unable to do it. So that's pretty interesting, isn't it, Dan? What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, it is. It's difficult. It takes discipline. It's a great idea, but it's just like anything. You've got to stick with it, and you've got to document it, and then you've got to manage through it, and it's difficult. And when you think about a landscaping business, Very few of us get into landscaping because we're in it for the money. It's landscaping. It's a seasonal business where it's difficult to keep employees working full time, and turnover can be really, really high. It's a business where you need to guarantee your product, and the product's life, once it gets planted, is pretty much out of your control. It's a business where if it gets too hot, too cold, too rainy, you can't work. And if it's too dry, watering restrictions make it so you can't plant. Up here in the Boston area, and I think throughout the East Coast, we had to deal with that this year. Most of us get into this business because we love the work. And loving the work is essential, because success in landscaping is too hard if you don't love it. And if you don't love it, it's impossible.
Mm-hmm.
And owning a landscape business and expecting to succeed with all this going on against you is, well, and to do it without a vision, a plan, and systems, it makes a difficult job just near impossible.
Mm-hmm. But what if you could have things running so smoothly that you could be, say, calling in for the numbers from your favorite vacation spot, like the British Virgin Islands or something like that, or you could maximize the value of your business so that you could sell it for what it's worth, or you could continue doing what you love to do in the business without having to do all of the things that you don't enjoy doing, but still knowing full well that those things are all getting done by someone else who actually does like to do it. And this is what we call business freedom, being able to actually achieve one or more of these conditions.
Yeah, I don't think there's a one of us who wouldn't want to own a business where we're calling in for the numbers from our favorite vacation spot. With a systemized business, maybe that's doable, but it might be kind of difficult to imagine from where each one of us are today. We know we need to systemize, and I'm certain we all agree that we need to work on our business and not just in it. At least that's the goal. The poll kind of proves that. The question is how.
Yeah.
Most of us are just trying to get past finding solutions for the shit that's happening to us every single day.
Right. Well, that's what we're going to focus on today. And for those of you who watched, I sent out a short pre-webinar video, and I spoke about this statistic, and I think it's worth mentioning again. I mean, I did say in the email that I sent to you that this is content that we're not going to be covering in today's presentation. We were really just trying to make a case for you to show up today, the importance of processes. Studies show that employees retain approximately 18% of what you tell them when you're training them by way of what we call the tribal method of training, the show and tell method, which is really how most people train. They just basically say, shadow me, watch what I do what I do. Problem is, these trainees are thinking about other things. They're thinking about a question they might want to ask, or they're thinking about the date that they'd had the night before. But what they are not thinking about are the intricacies of what you're telling them. Many can't even see them. They're unconscious to it. Without a documented procedure, they're going to remember less than a fifth of what you teach them. And that's why you have to tell them over and over and over again, maybe as much as 5 times. And the result, the employee doesn't achieve what is expected of them, and they either get fired or they quit, or worse still, owners hang on to them. They don't fire them, and there's a huge opportunity cost. There's a guy named Brad Smart who wrote a great book called Top Grading. There's a short version of this out on Amazon that I'd recommend. Brad Smart, Top Grading. He writes that he's basically an HR guy. He writes that opportunity cost from a failed hire can be as much as 10 times the value of that guy's salary, that employee's salary. But more than anything, it's just frustrating. It's frustrating for you, the entrepreneur. It's frustrating for the new employee, and it's frustrating for all of the other employees that are trying to deal with this guy. Well, what we say, and you've heard Dan and I say this many, many times, every frustration in your company is the result of the lack of a system. Don't blame the employee. Don't blame yourself. And by the way, I've moved away from using the word system to using the word process. So when I use the word system, I'm really talking about a process, a set of documented instructions that can be used to delegate something to someone else. So everything can be put down into a set of instructions. Don't blame the employee. Don't blame yourself. Blame the fact that you don't have a process that someone in that position could follow. A simple set of documented instructions that tells them what you need them to do and what you expect of them when they do it. So it could be, you need to make referral follow-up calls and you have to do it within a certain amount of time, and I need 3 referral calls made a week or something like that. They need to be able to find these instructions easily, and they need to be kept current, and you as the manager of these people need to hold them accountable to it. But how? How do you make policies and procedures these living, organic documents that are tools that are used in the everyday activities of a business? Well, we say that there are 2 key things missing in most organizations that are necessary to make this happen. 2 key needs. The first is a systems development plan for getting the procedures written. The second is a systems development tool, some sort of tool or application for making it easy to consistently write and organize the processes so that they can be kept current and so employees actually can find them when they need to use them. So we're going to start with the plan. After 17 years of working with hundreds and hundreds of businesses, we've developed a 5-step systems development plan, and we use this systems development plan to discover, prioritize, document, implement, and manage all of the processes in a business. And there are 5 key steps. And what I'm going to do, I'm going to go through these 5 steps with you, and then we're going to go back and we're going to go through them in more detail. But I want to give you the lay of the land to begin with. So there are 5 steps. The first step really isn't about systemizing at all. It's about understanding your destination. What is your business going to look like 3 to 5 years from now, or maybe even 7 years from now? What is your dream? After all, if you don't know where you're going, how are you ever going to get there? Step number 2 is to create the graphic picture of what that destination is going to look like, and this is what's going to become your org chart. Step number 3, you will define the processes that you think are necessary in that future organization. How will you generate a sale? How will you deliver on the promise that you made in that sales process? What back office processes are going to be going on behind the scenes, like hiring, firing, payroll, invoicing, estimating, collections, backing up your computers, all of the administrative and financial activities? How will you guide and manage the business from where you are today to where you want to get to? So in this step, you're not actually describing how the process is done. That's going to come later. That actually comes as you begin to write your processes. In this step, all you're doing is naming what needs to be done. And I'll go into that in more detail in a moment. Step number 4, once you've named all of your processes, you will actually connect them to the boxes on the org chart that you created in step 2. So think about this. You've identified everything that needs to be done in the business. You've identified all of the positions that you'll need in the business, and you've connected everything that needs to be done to all of the positions. So you've created complete functional accountability. Everything that has to happen has been assigned to a position, and then you just put people in these positions. Step number 5, begin to prioritize the writing of the processes and manage their writing, the completion of them. Which ones are the most important to get written as soon as possible, and who's going to help you write them? Now, I'm not going to go into too much of this today because that is an ongoing thing, but I will say that the most important processes in the business, we're not talking about the most important processes, we're talking about the most important processes that need to be written. I had a client who I was interviewing, got a great testimonial, and Dan, if people out there on the webinar want to hear it, they can let us know. it was a great testimonial. I asked him, how did you get started? And he's an accountant in New Zealand. And he basically said, well, our first step, we started with these really complex processes, and they were really hard to document. So we just backed off and we did some of the simplest, easiest, and yet most frustrating things. And he used, I think, even the example of closing up the office. So many times people were forgetting to punch in the code and set the alarm for his office. He's got about a 12-person operation. It was a very substantial business, good business. And he wrote a really simple process for closing up the office. That became important to him because it solved a frustration. So we'll talk about this, how to do that as we move into this presentation. Almost every business owner I speak to will, as quick as they can, will ask me, how long is it going to take for you to systemize my business? It's important to know that systemizing a business, it's not a project. It's a process. And the actual writing of your procedures, it's ongoing. It actually never ends. And the 5-step systems development plan doesn't actually get you to this place where all of your processes are written and finished, and that is that. That said, the business systems development plan, these 5 steps that we're going to go into detail in next, they're designed to create the systemic infrastructure of your business, and depending on the size and complexity of your business, it should take, as little as 6 to 10 hours, and sometimes we've done it in 4 hours. But it is a very powerful series of steps to have taken. Number 1, you're going to be very clear on your vision. Number 2, you have a clear understanding of all of the positions and the processes that you need to achieve this vision. You've created what we call complete functional accountability. That's that systemic infrastructure. Number 3, you've got position-specific operating manuals for every box on your org chart. For every position in your organization, you've got a very specific operating manual. And number 4, you'll have a prioritized plan for getting all of your processes written. It's really a profound step to have taken, and it's only going to take 4, 6, or maybe 10 hours. Okay, so the first step then is to define your destination. What is your business going to look like 5 years from now? Even 3 years from now, but more than next year. Next year is a budget. So we want you to dream a little, go out 3, 5, if you can do 7, that's also valuable. This is such a critical step. Studies show that if you do this and if you take action and track and communicate the process that you make on your vision, you have a 300% better chance of achieving your goal than if you don't take this step. So why do so few business owners do it? Well, both Dan and I agree that in many cases, they just don't know how. It's similar to what we were talking about earlier. They know they need it, they just don't know how, and they're more doers than planners, so they say, I'll get to that later, and they never do. We're not actually going to go into this process in this presentation. We've done a webinar specifically on this topic, and it's worthy of an entire 30-40 minute webinar. If you're interested, type in the chat box something like "send me a link to the vision webinar" or anything like that. When you type in a question, we'll email you that information. I can actually see who sent that information out, and we'll email that information out to you. Let me just Dan, can I just make sure that I went on after the polls? I just want to make sure that I close the polls and these slides are all changing. Are we good?
Yeah. Yep.
Okay, great. Okay, good. I've been known to leave a poll open, and if you leave a poll open, none of the slides are changing. But I hadn't heard anything from anybody. So, okay. So if anybody's interested in that visioning webinar that we did, just let us know in the chat box and we'll send you a link to it. It's great. And also Dan has a fantastic process for this. So anybody who is out there that wants to do this, contact Dan. I'll give you all his information at the end of the presentation. He can walk you through one of the eMyth processes that that we learned as an eMyth coach. I no longer do that. That's that Dan is the consultant. I'm really just Dan's partner in the process implementation and documentation. But if you are interested in creating a strategic vision and implementing a strategic plan, Dan has a great process for this. Okay. Once you have your destination, now you want to you want to create that graphic picture of that business. What's the business going to look like organizationally? Who's going to be helping you selling? I mean, do you need salespeople? I don't know. Will you need someone to do your social media? Will you need someone to do your website development? How many crew leaders will you need? How many crews? Will you need an estimator? How many? Will you need back office support people? So these are really valuable questions to ask. Let me see if I have a poll for organization chart. Can't remember if I do. Yeah. Okay. I'm going to launch another poll. So this is basically, do you have an organization chart? So it's either yes or no, or maybe sort of. And in the same vein, if you have an org chart, let me say, don't say yes, I have an org chart if it isn't current. If it's if you have an org chart, if I was to ask you, okay, send me your org chart, I'm not going to, but if I did, if I was going to say, send me your org chart, would you be able to send it to me right away, or would it be buried somewhere? Or would it be current? Okay, so Dan, looks like this is good. 70% of the people say they have an org chart and it is current. 10% said they have sort of an org chart, but it's not current, or I'm not quite sure. Oop, okay, hold it, changed. 64% say yes, I have an org chart. 18% say sort of. 18% no, I don't have an org chart. Okay, this is not actually a. I'm not going to ask you to comment on this, but think about this next question. For those of you who have org charts, and that's most of you, looks to me like about 82% of you, over 80% have org charts. Not all of them are current, but for those of you who have org charts, how do you use them? How do you actually use your org chart? Do you use your org chart? Because, and again, don't worry about telling me. This is food for thought, because most org charts are done following an assignment that was given to the entrepreneur by a consultant, or they read a book and they thought, oh, I better get an org chart done. And then it gets filed away. It's rare that the org chart is actually used in the day-to-day or month-to-month development of their business. Maybe it's used to help them understand who reports to who, but how can you use your org chart other than for telling, who reports to who? Obviously, your org chart helps you define all of the positions in your organization and who they report to. But what if your org chart could tell you who you needed to hire next and how much you could afford to pay them, and how quickly you needed to achieve a return on investment, and what is expected in them, and how they will be able to achieve what is expected of them? What if your org chart could answer these questions? What if you actually used your org chart, instead of it just being an exercise, it became a strategic growth tool? So what if that was the case? So what I want to do, I'm going to show you a little bit about organizational structure, and I want to begin by just bring this over. This is this is a tool called Touchstone. Earlier, I was talking about having a 5-step systemization plan and a tool for helping systemize the business. What I want to show you today is a tool that we've got called the Touchstone Business System. everything that I show you today, and I'll probably say this more than once, is it could be done in PowerPoint, Word, it could be done on a piece of paper. But what we found in the 17 years of experience is that those document sharing applications typically don't work. It will break down. Great to start off this way. We actually developed a tool specifically for documenting and implementing processes for taking that e-myth theory that we were delivering and making it practical, putting it into action. So I'm going to be using Touchstone today in our presentation. This is not a demo of Touchstone. We're going to actually build your systemization process. Today is a presentation on how to systemize your business. But instead of using paper, or instead of using a spreadsheet or PowerPoint for actually systemizing your business, I'm going to actually use this tool that we recommend. So this is Touchstone. I'm going to click on organizational chart. When people set up a Touchstone application, we give them a generic organizational structure. You take your strategic vision, the one that you created in step 1 of the 5-step plan, and you will edit this chart to illustrate what your future business will look like. This is really critical. A lot of people set up their org chart to make it the current vision of the business, and we recommend that you actually make a chart of your future vision, because what you will find is that your future vision is very similar to what you've got now. It's just that in the future you'll have more people in the organization. But right now, if you're a 1 or 2 or 3 person outfit, you actually probably have an organization that looks like this. It's just that you're here, you're here, you're here, you're also here, here, and here, and you're probably here. And maybe you've got a crew out there that's doing whatever it is that you do. So the goal is to get out of that box and leave behind a box with a whole bunch of processes in it that can be used to recruit, hire, train, and manage someone to do that job for you. So if you're currently the manager of marketing and sales and the primary salesperson, you want to get out of this box and get into this box and leave behind it a set of instructions that you can use to train this person and manage this person so that they win. Because if you just jump out of this box and hire someone and someone pops into this position, you're either going to get a prima donna who's unmanageable, or you're going to get someone who doesn't know what to do and they're going to get frustrated. Chances are. I mean, it's Brad Smart, that guy that wrote the book that I mentioned earlier called Top Grading. He talks about 75% of the time entrepreneurs make a hiring mistake. 3 out of 4 times the person you hire is going to be the wrong person for that position and for your company. So that's why you say, oh God, I can't get good employees. There are no good employees. No, that's not true. There are tons of great employees out there. It's just that you don't have the processes to hire them effectively, to get the right person to the right job, to the right company, train them effectively, and manage them and evaluate them accordingly. If you have those processes, it makes it that much easier. But when you get your org chart, you want to create this org chart of your future business. It's very easy. If you don't like what you see here, you can add positions, you can delete positions, you can take positions and move them around. So this guy goes over here. You can rename positions. So if this is your crew, you can do that, and then you can go back to the org chart and you can say these are your crew leaders. You could put crew leader in there. If you had it slightly different, maybe you had a bunch of crew leaders, you can have crew leaders here, and you can take, so now your operations manager is managing your crew leaders, and maybe you've got these guys down here who are your landscaping crew. So it's very easy. The other beautiful thing about this is that the org chart, because it's right here, it's dynamic. So you have a situation where you have a frustration in your business and you ask yourself the question, well, who is doing that? And then you realize that nobody in the organization is doing that. Maybe it's an appointment setter, something like that. So now you can add a position, put the appointment center underneath someone and create the job description. So it's this dynamic, and I've actually had specific experiences doing this where I've worked in my company and I didn't have time to follow up with a couple of processes. So I hired someone and I put them under me in my position, and I created 3 or 4 processes, and then I hired someone to fill that position. So creating this organizational structure for your future vision turns your org chart into a strategic growth tool. You actually use your org chart for the planning and the growth of your business. And you don't have to be hunting for it. You don't have to search for it. Okay, I'm going to park this, come back to here. Okay, so step number 3. This is all about naming the processes that you think you're going to need in your future vision. All of the processes that you need to achieve that vision. And in this step, I want you to think about your business in an entirely new way. I want you to rise above the landscape. And, I didn't mean for that to be a pun. I want you to rise above the landscape of your business and think of your business as having 4 key functions. Getting the business. These are all of your sales and marketing processes. Doing the business. These will be all of the processes for delivering on the promise made during your sales process. So these are going to be all of your production processes, your customer service processes, your maintenance processes, all of the processes that are directly related to what you do for your clients. Running the business, these are all of the processes that are going on behind the scenes, like invoicing, paying your bills, collections, hiring, firing, financial statements, budgeting, cash flow, all of the financial, administrative, human resource type processes, IT type processes. And you might say, well, we don't have HR processes. And I say, yes, you do. You hire people, you let employees go, some of you are big enough to have benefits. So just start thinking of them in human resource type processes. Some of you might say we don't have IT processes. Well, yes, you do. How do you back up your computers? Things like that. So all of those type of processes, finance, admin, HR, IT, they go under a category we call running the business. And strategy and management, all of the strategic processes for leading, managing, and guiding the business from where you are today to where you want to get to. These are the processes that go in the quadrant called guiding the business. So in the simplest of terms, there are really only 4 core activities that can happen in a business. You've got to get the sales. You've got to deliver on the promise. You've got to collect and pay for the goods and services performed. And you've got to guide and manage things so that you can get to where you want to get to. So this becomes your process database. This is where you will store all of your systems, and they get all categorized in 4 simple functions. I'm going to come back here. I'm going to click on the 4 key functions. Now again, you could get 4 sheets of paper. And for those of you who feel that you want to get started, do that. If you don't want to take advantage of we're going to give you an opportunity to take advantage of Touchstone at the end or get a demo or get a free account. But if you don't want to do that, do it on paper or do it in a spreadsheet or do it in 4 Word documents. But think about your business in terms of these 4 key functions. In this step, we are simply naming and organizing the processes. You are not describing how the process is done. And I typically like to start here under getting the business, all of your sales and marketing processes, because this is sort of where workflow starts. You've got to get the business before you can do the business. Now, let me give you an example. So, by the way, I want you guys to very quickly start. We're going to very quickly move into actually systemizing your landscaping business right now. So get ready to type into the chat box. But let me give you an example of what I'm asking for here. I was working with a client recently, and I asked him what they did to get new business. And his response was, Oh, well, we just analyzed our database to get a list of all the clients who'd not made a purchase in the last 12 months, but they had previously purchased more than $2,000. And then we exported this list into a file, and then we created an email, and then we merged that list into the email. And I said, whoa, stop. My question was, what do you do to get new business? Not how you do it. So if what you were just describing to me were a process, what would the name of that process be? So he thought about this for a moment and he said, oh, retargeting past clients. So we clicked on getting the business and we came up here and we said, add a new process. And we typed in retargeting past clients. And is that generating leads? I mean, I think so. So you'll notice that under getting the business, if I just come back here to the 4 key functions, these are all the sales and marketing. Within sales and marketing, you might want to start thinking of your sales and marketing processes as processes for generating leads, as processes for taking those leads and converting them into nurturing and converting them into sales, and then once they become clients for selling them and cross-selling them and upselling them. So then I asked this client, what else do you do? And he started rattling off all sorts of processes. He said Facebook, LinkedIn, Pinterest, trade shows, email marketing, blogging. And as he named them, we just listed them and built out a set of process names for him. And step by step, we went through each of his 4 key functions. And we named and identified every system he could think of. Okay, so now I want your input. Hey, Dan, this might be easier if we share the responsibilities as people enter content. I want people to tell me how they generate leads. What do you do to generate leads? Someone says referrals. Excellent. Okay, so let me go up here, add new process, referrals. Excellent. And that would be generating leads. Dan, again, if you could see this. Someone says Angie's List. Great. Angie's List. Do any of you do pay-per-click advertising? I'll just go ahead and add that. I'll just say Google AdWords. That would be a good one. Anybody doing Facebook? Yep. Okay, great. Facebook. Generating leads. So see what we're doing, and there's lots of great content coming up here. Strategic partners, excellent. That new process. I'm going to say straight up, if I didn't get to your input, I'm apologizing. I just can't read fast enough, and but you see how we're getting it, or how we're starting to name all these processes. Okay, now can you see that these are how you would generate a lead? Once you've got a lead, how do you nurture that lead? What do you do to stay in touch with them? Top of mind is a classic sales concept. What is it that you do to turn that lead into a sale, a long-term loyal client? So again, just in the chat box on the side, type in what is it that you do. Great. Someone says qualification. We qualify them. So let's make qualification call. And I'm going to stick this under converting leads into sales. Add new process. Someone says on-site visit. Right. Excellent. On-site visit. Converting leads into sales, or client first appointment call. Some people call it. Here's one, estimate. They do an estimate. Duh, Michael, of course. Estimate. What else? What else, guys? What are you thinking? You see what I've got here. CRM program tracking. Excellent. Okay, hold on. CRM program tracking. For those of you who don't know what CRM means, CRM is a client relationships management. So it basically tracks, probably helps with automation. We use a great tool called Infusionsoft for our CRM application. If anybody wants to hear about Infusionsoft, let me know. Networking. Brian writes networking. I'm going to say, Brian, that okay, networking and yard signs, I missed those. Let me go back and add them. Networking. And that's lead generation. Yard signs, probably everybody has yard signs. Door hangers would probably be good ones too. Okay, excellent. Okay, final step here, and this is just for getting, under getting the business. What is it that you do to retain your clients? Because some of you probably have maintenance agreements. And you want to have good client retention on those maintenance agreements. Some of you probably just get a call back every year, and it's a whole new sale every year. What is it that you do to maintain your clients? Okay, let me see. 3 site visits per year, contact and invite them to walk around. Okay, so Brian, this is good. What I would say is that we would call them client site visits, and then, in fact, let me just, can I copy this? No, I can't copy that. Okay. We would say add new process. When you're naming a process, client visits, the and I'm going to put that under client retention and upselling. When you're naming a process, it's usually a couple of words. It's a title. What you just gave me was more of a description, and that would go right here when you open up. So this would be something like perform 3 client visits annually, which will include we'll call it a walk around with the client. Now, I'm not describing, I'm not saying how to do it yet. That's going to come in. We would actually write a work plan, which would step by step, we would create this work plan. But all we did right here is put a sentence or two that describes the purpose of a client visit. So the idea here is to the name of the process. Okay, what else? Let me just see if I'm seeing something else here. Customer satisfaction calls. Great. I'm going to call it client satisfaction call. And I like to use, I'm a little OCD when it comes to this. I like to use upper and lowercase letters. Expiring maintenance agreements. Okay, so that's probably a process for expiring maintenance agreements. Maintenance agreements. So there's a process for expiring maintenance agreements. What else? What else are people seeing? Customer complaint process. I always love that one. You know, complaints. One of the things that we teach, both Dan and I teach this, and you can see it's been here before. Complaints are opportunities, huge opportunities. When you get a complaint, number one, you can be the hero by coming back and solving it, and it gives you an opportunity to innovate your existing process so that that complaint doesn't happen again. So that's just something to key on. Okay, again, I apologize for not getting everybody's input into this. The purpose of today was not to really completely do it. I just wanted to get you started. After you get getting the business, you will move into running and doing and guiding. Something that I want to point out to you is that I talked earlier a little bit about, you always hear me harping on hiring. Hiring and training and onboarding is actually a process that you should have. And a lot of these processes you might not have currently. Well, there's actually a library of general sort of generic processes from business to business. And Dan is working on a series of templates for landscape companies. And he's got 2 series that he's working on right now. One for landscape companies that are doing less than $1 million in annual revenue, and another for a series or for a business that does more than $1 million, a landscape company contractor doing more than $1 million. But when you click on any one of these, you can pull up a template of process names, many of which are written, and you can just click, I need that, boom, click save. I've downloaded this one, for example. This is the new employee introduction and the new employee onboarding process. And this is just an example of when you bring a new employee on board. What do? You call them, you send out an email to everyone so that they're expecting, they know who they are. It's just a step-by-step set of process tasks that you can do. And we've got a first day training, a 30-day evaluation, a 60-day evaluation. We've got an onboarding checklist. We've got onboarding stats that you can look at. We've got a policy for new employee onboarding. It's just a wonderful step-by-step example of a process. We've got lots of processes written that are fairly generic from business to business. And what you can do is you can download these into your own Touchstone account, and then you can edit them. You can just go in here and edit them and click save and add tasks or change things. They're hyperlinked to other processes, so you'll know that after they're ready, they go to new employee training, and they'll go right to the employee checklist, right to the strategic plan, and step by step you can go through all of these different processes. So I just wanted to give you a heads up that there is that available to you as well. Okay, let me move this out of the way. Oops. Shrink it down. Click on this guy. Okay.
Michael,
so what? Yes. Yeah.
We're about 9 minutes from the hour.
Yep. Thanks, Dan. We're coming to a close here. Okay. Step number 4. You're going to link the processes that you have to the specific positions on your organizational chart. And in doing this, you're creating clear and measurable job descriptions for each position in your company. You're creating this, I use this term a couple of times, functional accountability, complete functional accountability. You've defined all of the tasks that need to be accomplished, you've defined all of the positions that need to be filled in the company, and you've assigned all of those tasks to specific positions so that you're confident that everything that needs to be done has been assigned to a person who will do it. So again, in Touchstone, let me just bring this across. You can actually go to the org chart and select a specific position and link processes, but we typically recommend coming back to your 4 key functions list, clicking on your specific processes, and then coming up here and linking them. So who's going to be doing retargeting of past clients? And we say the salesperson is. And then we click the back button. And we go to the next process, referrals. Who's going to be doing the referrals process? What I'm doing here is I'm pulling up the org chart that we created over here. So these 2 things are now tied together. And the salesperson is going to be responsible for referrals. And step by step, I go through all of the processes that I just named, and I link them to the different positions on the organization chart. Very powerful set of steps to have walked through. Quick word about job descriptions. Most of the job descriptions that we see, they're not really well used. In fact, actually, when I ask people about job descriptions, they might say, "Oh yeah, we've got job descriptions," and then I'll say, "Well, can you send them to me?" And they'll say, "Well, we've sort of got them. We've got a couple." Rarely are the job descriptions current because they're usually only used for hiring. Once the position is hired, the job description is filed away until a new employee needs to be hired, and then, when they need a new person for that position, they bring it out and they do it all again. So the purpose for most job descriptions is for hiring. What you're seeing here is a typical job description. This is one of our clients. This is the job description that they were using before becoming a client of ours, and you can see that it's really nothing more than a hiring document. It's what you might even see in a Craigslist ad. What if a job description could be a position-specific operating manual, a set of instructions that's used to train, manage, and evaluate an employee? And because it's used to evaluate the employee, both the employee filling the position and the manager of that employee, they tend to keep their eyes on it. And as a result, it stays current. It just becomes this dynamic, fluid document that is used to manage people and hire people. And when someone needs to know how to do what they need to do, they simply find their position on your org chart. They click on it. Up pops all of the processes, their job description. They find a specific process and they click on it, and everything they need to do is right there. So we've walked you through 4 of the steps in this simple 5-step process. Again, this is a very powerful series of steps to have taken. You've got a blueprint for your business growth, the foundation for systemizing your business. You'll have a dynamic org chart that you'll use to assist you with your business development. You'll have a complete list of all of the processes that you need to make sure that everything is getting done. And you'll have linked those processes to all of the boxes on your org charts. So you've got complete functional accountability. You've got everything ready to go. Everything that needs to be done in your business has been assigned to positions. And now you know that everything that needs to get done is being done. And if it isn't, you can figure out who isn't doing it and why. I want to say again that all of this can be done in Microsoft Word. It can be done in Google Docs, Dropbox, Excel. You can even use 3-ring binders. But these are all document sharing tools. We've had many years of experience, and we know that document sharing tools, they just don't work very well. And it really helps when you have an application that's designed for process implementation. And Touchstone is designed specifically following, we were eMyth Mastery consultants, and we really designed it so to make it easy to organize and implement your processes. With Touchstone, your staff can easily find their processes. They can participate in the process of systemizing your business. If someone brings you a great way of doing something, the process won't leave when the employee leaves. I had an example of this. I had an appointment setter who asked me if we had LinkedIn, and we didn't. I had a LinkedIn account, but I didn't really use it. She created this incredible LinkedIn process and actually wrote it down in our Touchstone account. Creating a process-dependent business happens gradually. It evolves over time. You're going to acquire more and more processes as you journey through this process of systemizing your business. Having a repository to put all this information, it just makes it ridiculously easy. It's not rocket science. It's simple, but it takes time. It's something that happens over time, and processes will accumulate, and your business will evolve from a people-dependent business into a process-dependent business. So last piece, getting your employees to help you write processes, or how do you get your processes, a couple of ideas around how to get your processes written, because you can't possibly do it all by yourself. One of the ways is to have a new employee draft up processes when you're training them. If you think about this, how well trained they will be. You're telling them how to do what they need to do. You can be sure that they're documenting what they're learning because you're asking them to do it. They're going to write it up. They're going to review it with you the next day. So you're engaging multiple sensory experiences, auditory, visual, kinesthetic, and you're repeating the process 3 times. Dan, you had another example of how to get processes written and implemented? Yeah, I'm not hearing you, Dan. You have to unmute.
Yeah.
Okay, there you go.
Yeah, it's kind of taking that step with the training a little in a similar way. But I was working with a landscape design build company in New York. They had 9 salespeople, and they were doing about $10 million in sales. but only two of them were any good. You know, they were phenomenal, really, at converting prospects to customers. And these two, each of them sold about $2 million plus in design build sales every single year. So the problem was how to teach what these two guys knew about converting prospects to customers to the rest of the sales team. You talk about training. You know, everybody was seasoned, everyone was there, but we needed to train the lower performing salespeople to really understand what these two guys understood. So what we came up with was a contest, and I took the two best salespeople and I made them mentors to all the other 7 salespeople. And the contest was kind of like American Idol, and it culminated in a show with each of the salespeople, the 7 salespeople who were taking the training. Each of those salespeople made presentations to everyone working at the landscape company during the winter. The partners of the firm judged which was the best presentation, and there was a lot of pressure to perform. Everyone took it seriously, and there was a valuable gift offered to the winner. During the preparation period, the sales process was studied, benchmarks were gone over, and practiced with role plays. The whole design department, which really in this place was classified as sales, took part. It was exciting, and we made it fun. At the day of the show, the whole company gathered. The presentations were all creative and really well thought through. Knowing that the salespeople were going to present before their peers, the managers and the owners gave the contest far more meaning than it would have if the salespeople were just competing for a prize. Afterwards, the partners and I went over the presentations, and we compiled the most compelling parts of each presentation over the weekend, and we presented our findings individually to each salesperson, including the top performers. As a result, we ultimately changed the sales process so that it gave space and encouragement for the prospects to connect to the designs and the proposals. The sales process was improved and documented, of course, in Touchstone. Everyone improved their conversion ratios, even the top performers. Conversion ratio, I mean the conversion of a prospect to a customer or a client. Right. And sales increased exponentially. Actually, the improvement affected everything, not just sales. The game impacted the heart of the company, its brand commitment, and the organization through all levels. Yeah. It was incredible. It was great.
It's great. I love stories like that. It's great. Okay, so we're going to wrap it up. As a next step, I'd like to encourage anyone on the call to schedule a demo of Touchstone so that you can really see how ridiculously easy it can be to create and implement processes in your business. Here's a URL that you can enter into a browser. It's you have to type in bit.ly/SOD_Touchstone, all lowercase letters. And now today's presentation, it wasn't meant to be a demo of Touchstone. I just wanted to let you know that the tool is available and to encourage you to find out. If you go to that address, you can register for a Touchstone demo, and we'll show you how easy it is to get your business systemized. We've been systemizing businesses for 17 years, and we've had plenty of experience to know what works and what doesn't work. We've actually written a book on how to systemize your business, and if you actually register for a Touchstone demo, we'll email you a free copy of that ebook. And we'll give you a free month use of the tool so that you can get started following the instructions in the book. Or if you want to see a really cool process using your cell phone, text the letters SOD to that number, 707-800-3603, and you'll be prompted to schedule your own demo with one of our systemization guides. And we'll also send you that free copy of the systemization handbook, how to systemize your business. But that's a really cool process. It's fun if you want to give that a try. And Dan is offering a free hour consultation to assist you with identifying your processes or helping you with another issue of your choice. You just need to reach out to Dan and ask him for that. So I'm going to end with 2 quotes from 2 other great books I highly recommend. Dan earlier talked about the E-Myth Revisited, Why Most Businesses Don't Work and What to Do About It. Both of these 2 books, among other things, discuss how to systemize your business I really love this one called Built to Sell. What John says here is don't become synonymous with your company. If a buyer isn't confident that your business can run without you in charge, they won't make their best offer. What happens with many entrepreneurs is they find themselves trapped in the business. The customers, they want to deal with the owner. And the owner becomes personally involved in serving the customer, which then reinforces the customer's reliance on the owner. And a business reliant on the owner, it's not very scalable and it's not very sellable. So you get trapped in the business and overwhelmed. This other quote is from Scott Fritz, a colleague and a great fan of ours who wrote an excellent book called The 40-Hour Work Year. Scott writes, to me, the basic definition of a business owner is someone who can afford to hire an employee to do their job. I love that. Someone who can afford to hire an employee to do their job. Until you can afford to hire this person, you don't own a business, you own a job. So that's great. I apologize for going overtime, guys. I think I don't know, Dan. If there are any questions anybody has, my recommendation is just to email us. You can email me at mmills@businessdesigncorp.com. You can give us a call at 707-522-6253. You can email Dan at danp@sodinc.net, or give Dan a call at 857-600-6991. So let's just close it up, Dan. I think. If you want to close it up.
Yeah, I think that's we're 5 after the hour.
Yeah.
I'm really appreciative of all the attention, the time you guys spent. I can tell that people were really listening, and if my contact information is here, we're also going to be sending out a recording. I'm not sure if Michael mentioned that, but we will. And so if you weren't able to, you'll have the recording and you can slow it down and pause it and copy down the websites and the different ideas that we presented.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you again.
Okay, yeah, and I just want to also say thank you to everyone who attended today. I hope it's been a valuable experience. I'm going to be sending out a feedback email. I would love to get feedback. Dan and I are always working on this presentation. We offer it, and we will be offering a very similar presentation to this again. But I hope that what I've been able to deliver today, that you can actually put to use in whatever way, shape, or form. Again, if you have any questions, feel free to contact me directly. My name's Michael Mills. My email address is mmills@businessdesigncorp.com. And you can visit us on the web at www.businessdesigncorp.com. We've got a ton of free offers, all sorts of good stuff there to help you grow and develop your business, as does Dan on his website as well. So thank you for watching, everybody, and have a great day and a great week and a great, great month. All the success, all the best success to you. Thank you. Bye-bye now.